Hey groupers, Pastor Marshall here. We continue to walk through Core 52, the Good Shepherd. I wonder, just in your group, can any of you share, do you have any personal experience with shepherding sheep? If not sheep, any personal experience shepherding goats? Any shepherding of any kind of animals? We mostly just think about goats and sheep. Do you have any experience shepherding? And what's that like? What lessons did you learn when you were shepherding? If you don't have any experience with shepherding, do you have any exposure to someone who did? What do you know about shepherding? Just talk about that for just a little bit. And then, before we dig into the passage, I want you to remember throughout this Bible study the difference between a sheep herder and a sheep rancher. What is the major difference between a sheep herder and a sheep rancher? What are their goals for the sheep? And remember that this is going to impact so many more of these questions. Why do you think that so many Bible characters are shepherds? Can you name a few? What is it about shepherding that helps prepare a person of God to lead God's people? What is it about shepherding that makes people better for leading God's people? Who in your life has served as a shepherd? Who in your life has shepherded you? Can you think of examples of shepherds in our society today? What are the things that they could do that would make them good shepherds? What can they do to use their power to protect us? And what could they do that would make them bad shepherds? What are some examples of some bad shepherds in our society today? And then repeatedly, including Jesus, the Bible refers to God as a good shepherd, as our shepherd. Why do you think that is? How does it fit that God is our shepherd? And then coming out of that, specifically in John chapter 10, Jesus describes himself as the good shepherd. This is one of the great I am statements in the Gospel of John. And we talked about 4 different things that Jesus used to describe himself as a shepherd. First, he says he comes through the gate, meaning that he is invited. He doesn't force his way into our lives. Why doesn't Jesus force himself into a relationship with us? What does that mean about our relationship with Jesus? And then he says that he calls the sheep, he leads them out. And we compared this to Psalm 23, where David writes, "Your rod and your staff, they comfort me." What are some of the ways that Jesus might do this in our lives today? What are some of the ways that he would lead us, that he would guide us? And then he says that the good shepherd doesn't run away like the hired hand. The good shepherd stays. And so I wonder, how does Jesus today in our lives use his power to protect us? Not to guide us, but to protect us. And then finally, he describes himself as the one who lays down his life for his sheep. And obviously, he is talking about the cross most specifically. But I wonder, how does Jesus still today, in your relationship with him, and his role as a shepherd in your life, how does he still lay down his life? How does he still sacrifice himself for us as his followers? Well, our application this week is pretty sticky. We're shepherds, whether it's in our work environment, whether it's in our home environment, whether it's in some way that we volunteer, we are shepherds. And so challenging you to pick 2 of these things and put them into practice. And so how are you doing with shepherding this week? And whom are you shepherding? Well, I hope that you have a great Bible study. I look forward to talking to you next week as we continue our walk through Core 52. God bless.